everyone, welcome to A Wild Approach. This is my front yard garden and this is where most of my plants are. I have a few in the backyard, but not nearly as many as my front yard. This is where I started gardening, is this front yard, and I just wanted to give you a fresh tour here in April. I think I filmed this a couple days ago on like April 12th or something like that. So, come along with me and we will look around at the garden together. Okay, so over here, I planted some dill seedlings and some sweet alyssum seedlings. However, so far, I'm only seeing sweet alyssum seedlings popping up over here. And then I have a salvia, and I have a lot of cilantro to the right of it. I actually don't eat cilantro. It tastes like soap to me. I have that gene. But I love the flowers, and I love that it comes up when it does because it can kind of help me suppress this Bermuda grass that is in all parts of my garden, unfortunately. So over here I have a peony, and shortly after I filmed this, just like a day or two later, I had to stake it because it was just flopping out everywhere. I have Gara here, I have Lens-leaf Coreopsis, and then back here I have some Liatris babies. And I say babies, but they're just really slow for me. I don't know why. I don't know if this area just gets too much shade sometimes. And then here I have a native ground cover called Carolina Cranesbill. I love it. I did not plant it, I don't think, purposefully or otherwise, but it just pops up on its own. There's a lot of weeds here, so I apologize. This was an area I was developing. There's some partridge pea babies coming up. I think there's like blanket flower babies, maybe some rudbeckia babies. I don't know. I'm still learning how to tell apart the seedlings of. Oh, there's another partridge pea. Here is the Purple Homestead verbena. It's not native, but it's just so beautiful, and this is what I saw my swallowtails come to earliest. This is like one of the earliest things blooming in my garden. I need earlier blooming things, okay? I did add a vine, which you'll see later, that blooms really early, but I need more. Here's yarrow. I actually got these seeds before I was really fully into the native plant thing, so I'm not really certain if this yarrow is a native type of yarrow or what, but it's like the berry colors, the pastel and berry colors. It's really pretty. Here's a peony. It was buried in that mulch. I had to dig the left half of that out. That's why it's shorter than the right half. I had accidentally buried that one in way too much wood chip mulch, which the wood chip mulch, it does not stop Bermuda. It just doesn't. So if you're trying to stop Bermuda, don't do it with wood chip mulch. It just doesn't work. It comes right through it. I have a lot of baby Russian sages, and this is a passion vine, purple passion vine that popped up, because they do that. They pop up here and there, feet away from the parent plant. So just keep that in mind. If you plant it, it's going to pop up. You will have to pull some of them up because sometimes they'll pop up where you don't want them. And I have a lot of little seedlings popping up here that I'm not even sure what they are yet, but we'll find out, won't we? We'll find out together. They have baby yarrow there. They look like really tiny yarrow babies. Over here's my mountain mint. I think I have like 3 or 4 of these around the garden. They smell so strong when you touch them, at least, when you like rub the leaves. Here is the parent passion vine over here, coming back. And this is my inkberry holly. Guys, if you have experience with inkberry hollies, please let me know. I am not sure if I should hack this back because look how leggy it looks. It's very sparse on the bottom. I know that can happen with them, but these are fairly new. I planted them like a year ago. There's another baby passion flower vine, so I'm not sure. I'll probably have to pull that one out. Here's another peony. This one is one of my first ever plants I put in the garden way before I even thought and even knew anything about native plants. Here's my Dusty Miller that I chopped back, and it's flushing with new growth. Dusty Miller, I haven't seen it make any babies in my garden at all, so I don't think it's invasive or anything. So I've been adding more of it to my garden, actually, just as like a contrasting foliage interest. This is a baby tulip poplar, and these trees get very large, and this is way too close to my house, so I'm going to pot that baby up. Here's some oregano, bee balm, which is the bergamot type. Lots of Verbena bonariensis in here. Left a lot of little twigs in here. There's some coneflower to the left, and more bee balm. I actually have bee balm throughout the garden. Bee balm is kind of like, here's another inkberry holly, struggling. Anyway, bee balm is like the plant that I have that repeats throughout my garden. It's one of the main repeaters in my garden because it just does so well in my garden, which it is in the mint family, so not really shocking, but I love it and it smells amazing. This is Carolina jessamine. It produces little yellow flowers, but mine are both struggling. I don't know. I think it's just winter burn. This is the coral honeysuckle vine, and it is by far my new favorite vine. Look at this vibrant color in April. Actually, it was coloring up earlier than that, and like the end of March, and I was just like, a little bee. But I do want to talk about the coral honeysuckle. You should just get it, okay? It's semi-evergreen to evergreen, and it's a vine, and it's beautiful, and it's just my new favorite vine. I love passion flower, but I love the fact that coral honeysuckle actually stays in its, like it doesn't just go all the way down to the ground in the winter. Here's some little succulent ground covers I've put in to try to suppress some weeds. And yeah, that's a coneflower, by the way, multiple coneflowers. Yes, I have a lot of creeping Charlie. I know it's atrocious. Here's a parsley and a bee balm. But the creeping Charlie, even though it's an enemy in my garden, it is a lesser enemy than Bermuda grass. And so that's rosemary. My rosemary is also really struggling, I think. I mean, it was thriving, but I think what I did wrong was I didn't cut it enough. I didn't like chop it back enough. And so I chopped it back and now it looks really scraggly. Here is a skyrocket juniper, and that's an ironweed. Lots of the Carolina cranesbill ground cover mist flower is coming up. That's the bright green that you see with the triangular leaves. This is creeping Charlie creeping in, of course. It's everywhere. But again, it is less atrocious for me than Bermuda grass because at least it has these little flowers that the honeybees like, which I know the honeybees aren't, as good as the native bees, but it's something. And there's that Carolina cranesbill geranium. It is just so cute. I love those leaves. I just freaking love that because I didn't have to do anything. It just creeps around my garden and covers the ground here and there. This is a bearded iris. I'm pretty sure these are non-native. They're just in the garden for interest. But here is my new propagation bed with little baby mist flowers in there, baby New Jersey tea, baby asters, baby rudbeckia. I forget what all is in there. I think there's like some ironweed in there too. But anyway, so excited about this propagation bed, but I think I could make better ones in the future. We'll talk about that in another video. This is a Washington hawthorn tree baby, and it is doing so great, and I love how early it leaves out. I love the red, the orange, and the green all together on the same plant at the same time. I think it's just so pretty, and I can't wait for this to grow big enough to where we can see it from our front porch window. It's just so lovely. Okay, over here is the little island bed with the crepe myrtle in the middle. My mom helped me plant that plant years before she passed, and so it's a nostalgic plant. It means a lot to me. We planted it before we knew about native versus non-native trees, so don't judge me. But here is a lance leaf coreopsis, I think, or blanket flower. I'm still learning the foliage difference between some of these that I kind of planted all at the same time. There's some, speaking of time, here's some thyme. I think it's really cute, but it's just very sparse in my garden. Thyme just kind of is very sparse in my garden. I think it does a lot better in containers, so I might grow some in containers. You saw there was a butterfly petal back there. And here's the pink evening primrose. Okay, so This may or may not be native in my area. I get confused by the Bonap map because the dark green says it's native, but then it doesn't say it's native in my county, so I'm kind of confused on that. But here is an elderberry shrub. And I am so thrilled because this has only been in the ground. This has only been in the ground like a year. And look at this. It's so lush already. And there's a little bug on there. Look how happy that little bug is. So cute. This elderberry is doing so great. I think I need to mulch it just a tiny bit or not mulch. I think I need to bring a little bit of dirt, just a tiny bit around its root though, because the root's kind of showing. And this is what can happen if you accidentally shade your star junipers too much. Do you see the dead, oh, yeah. It's because I let my passion vine grow over it, and it just went wild. Here's a black cherry tree. This is going to be like our big shade tree one day, hopefully. We'll see. And here is a violet. All these violets are phenomenal. They have just been spreading. I just transplanted a few into my garden beds, and they just spread on their own. It's great. This is a redbud baby tree with bee balm in the background and an eastern red cedar in the background. That eastern red cedar, I'm going to try to keep smallish, okay? Not tiny, but like my height-ish. We'll see. I already clipped some of it. I read online that you can clip it, but I don't know how true that is, like how good it will do. But I have like 3 American plum trees here. They look really pretty in the fall, by the way. The fall color on those is beautiful to me. It has like a yellow leaf with like pinkish purple veins or something. It's crazy pretty, with a little bit of peachy undertone to it. I have some lance leaf loosestrife, which is the purple. It says purple lance leaf loosestrife. To me, it looks more reddish, but I see it's like a wine color, and it's a really pretty ground cover. It's a native ground cover. Here's the violets just going ham. And here's some recent transplanted violets and bee balm and evening primrose. And this is an elderberry shrub and a plum planted too close together with a bunch of baby violets underneath. I tried to move that American plum that I have growing next to it, but I couldn't dig it out. It was in there. But this is called the habitat hedge. This is the area of the garden where we want to encourage birds to nest, chipmunks to forage. We just want to encourage all the insects and native species. This is a lot of phlox, by the way, right here, which seems to be doing great. Last year it was looking a little bit rough. I don't know if it just doesn't like the late summer, because that's kind of when I noticed it kind of looked rough. But this is a Sargent's crabapple tree, and this is a triple play phlox. I'm probably not saying the entire name properly, but look how pretty this is. Got this from a native nursery, and it has like a cream, a peach, a pink, a light green, and it's just so pretty. And let me tell you who picked this out. My husband picked this out. And he was so smart for picking that out, because oh my gosh, it contrasts things beautifully. Nothing else in the garden looks like it at all. And it's just so pretty. I mean, look at that contrast. And nothing else looks like that. I love it so much. And I love that pink on the leaves. You can't go wrong with that. And this is just like a look on that end of the habitat hedge. And then here we have beautyberry shrub. Beautyberry shrub is just now starting to bud out, and I thought it was dead. I was worried. But it just leaves out later than some of these other things, so we'll be all right, I think. I hope. Because I love the beautyberry shrubs. They are beautiful. I only have one so far, but I want more because they're just that good. Here's a bunch of violets that just are going ham. Hopefully they spread really good and become like my green mulch, because I need it real bad. This is a button bush. I thought it was dead too, because I was not really sure if this area gets enough moisture or not. It is kind of downhill, so a lot of the moisture comes down here, but wasn't really sure. The irrigation, the drip line is actually not running or anything. We just laid that down there. It's kind of just sitting there for now. We actually have it for the arb hedge, the arb and holly hedge, but I just moved it from there because I realized that area is already really moist because of the leaves. You can see those leaves right now. That area is very moist. Some of it's actually kind of wet. So we might have to pull some of those leaves off because it might be getting too much moisture. But underneath those leaves, the soil looks just amazing, and there's so much life under there. I see all these little bugs and critters, and it's just great. Here's my favorite redbud tree that we have so far. We have 3 total. This one is the tallest one. Hopefully the tippy top didn't die out. I think the tippy top might have died out, but we're going to give it time to leaf out and we'll see. I just love these heart-shaped leaves. And then this one actually flowered. The other ones didn't flower yet because they're actually really young trees. We just put them in not this past fall, but the fall before, I think is when it was. But it had just that tiny little cluster of blooms this year. So next year, maybe we'll have a lot of blooms. We'll see. And you can see I'm filming on a really cloudy day because it's usually easier to film on a cloudy day. So this is an oak leaf hydrangea that I probably planted way too close to that cypress, but you can move plants, you know. That cypress to the left with that bright yellow foliage is just gorgeous. It's not native though, and this is an arborvitae, so this is, I think, considered a native, if I remember. Yeah, it's an emerald green arborvitae specifically. This is an oak leaf holly. So let's talk about winter damage. I really believe all 3 of these oak leaf hollies had considerable winter damage, winter burn. Look at the brown leaves and the stems, and all the flowers look dead. So I'm going to keep an eye on this one, because see, again, I checked the moisture. I thought it was too dry. I was going to water these, but it's moist. It's very moist. So they don't need water. So I think they got winter damage, because this one's damaged the worst, and it is the one on the end, the most exposed to the wind. We had horrible winds. We had horrible shifts in temperature from very, very hot to very, very cold. Up and down, frosts, and just all kinds of mayhem here in East Tennessee, like about a month ago, and kind of off and on since, in a way. Like, we had snow the other day out of nowhere, but you can see there's a little spider living in that one, you know, catching some flies for me. And then this is another bee balm, because I like to encourage things that are native, that grow very well in my garden, and bee balm, the bergamot type, is definitely one of those. I topiaried that Wichita blue juniper because it just looked really dead in the bottom, and I was like, you know, this is an opportunity to topiary because I've never done it before, and I have a book that my friend gave me about topiary. So I started by just clipping the bottom. Anyway, here is the thread leaf cypress, golden thread leaf cypress. Threadleaf branch, golden branch thread. I always forget how to say the name of this plant, but it is a cypress that has that weeping habit, and it's supposed to eventually get the height of my fence. Actually, a little bit taller, I think, than the height of my fence, and the whole width of that section of the fence. So it will fill in the whole spot that it's sitting in, and that little pot next to it will eventually have to move because it'll take up that whole space. But here is a bed that I am so excited about, because this used to be my zinnia patch, and I turned it into a mostly native garden. Now, these bearded irises are not native to my knowledge. I don't actually know where they're native to, but they kind of just create a little hedge edge for me to kind of help protect this area. There's the coral honeysuckle again. That's the same vine. You're just seeing it from the outside of the fence next to the gate. This bed has some non-native things in it, like those grasses are non-native, and the gara in here, I know there's native garas, but I don't know if the gara that's specifically in this bed is native or not. I'm still fudging up sometimes when I go and buy plants, thinking I'm getting natives when I'm actually not, so I need to get better at that, but that's why you shop at native-only nurseries, because then you know everything there is native. It's easier. This is a native viburnum called arrowwood viburnum. That's what the shrub in the middle is, the really tiny shrub. And I've got liatris around it. I've got blue star. I've got the Carolina cranesbill geraniums. I've got liatris babies that have popped up from reseeding themselves here. I've got frostweed right there at the back. There's the blue star. And I am just so excited. Again, I might have to sprinkle some dirt around some of these roots, because I find that some of these roots have come up out of the ground a little bit. and it kind of worries me, so I might have to put just a little bit of soil around some of these. This is a purple coneflower. I left the stalks on these. I actually leave the stalks over the whole winter, which is really good for your wildlife. You definitely want to do that as much as you can. I did cut a bunch of bee balm back recently, and then I found out, oh, I should have been leaving the bee balm stalks for longer or clipping them taller than I did. So you live, you learn. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you're a wildlife gardener. And here's what it looks like from this angle. And here's a little guy. I didn't ID him yet, but I really need to ID him because he's cute. And then my strawberry patch is starting to create strawberries. And that is pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little tour of the garden in early April. Here's some other little critters in the garden, and this is the habitat hedge on the west end. I have created that little chicken wire cage to protect certain things. I use it to protect some seedlings. I also used it this time to protect those Dusty Millers because I noticed there were some little chomps. Anyway, see you next time. Bye! To support the channel, like the video, comment, and subscribe. You can also support my work by buying art from me at macylou.com. Thanks for watching!